Hello and welcome to our Independent Strings 10 Tips for Beginning Improvisers. For those of you who don't know us, Independent Strings is a program that specializes in teaching string players how to improvise, arrange, and compose music. We work mostly with string players, but this video will work for whatever instrument you play. So if you're new to improvising, make sure to write down some of these effective strategies. Okay, so tip number 1, improvise regularly. Generally speaking, every time you try to improvise, you get a little bit better. So you need to provide yourself with that opportunity on a regular basis. It really is the more you do it, the better you get. So if that means jamming along with your favorite song, or soloing over some chord changes, or just closing your eyes and playing, set aside some time to do so. In the case of improvising, more really is more. Tip number 2, really familiarize yourself with the song you're trying to improvise over. Make sure you play through the melody, and for those of you who are part of the Independent Strings program, play through the bass notes and play through the chord notes. See if you can hear the song in your head, even sing it maybe. If you can do all these things, it's going to be much easier to improvise over the song. Tip number 3, if you're working with chord symbols, write down all the notes and every chord. In our program, we do that by providing you with a chord guide for our songs. But to make your own, you can easily find a chart online or look on our website. We have a chord chart there. You can find our website in the description below. Get your pencil out and write all the notes contained within each chord symbol, either by writing the letter names above or using a piece of staff paper and writing the notes down in there. These are the notes you are trying to land on. Practice playing through the notes of each chord to get to know how they sound and see what your target notes are. So being able to land on chord notes will make your solo sound more cohesive. The most common melodies, for example, are usually 70 to 90% chord notes. Tip number 4, you're probably doing better than you think. This is something we've noticed over the years. Whenever we have a student try improvising, they often think that they didn't do very well. However, everyone in the room generally agrees that it was actually pretty good. This is really common. For this reason, it's super important to be encouraging to yourself and encouraging to friends who are trying to improvise for the first time. They might not realize how good of a job they did, so make sure you say something positive about what you heard. You can really make a huge difference to someone who might be thinking they did a poor job. Tip number 5, record yourself. It's hard to know in the moment what you liked and what you didn't like. When improvising, it's more of like a go, 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 keep moving type situation. So in order to reflect on how well you're doing, it's a really good idea to record yourself and listen back. The rewards can be twofold if you record yourself and listen back on a regular basis. So have your method of recording available in front of you before you start practicing. Make sure you listen back and consider taking notes on what you heard. Tip number 6, use a play-along. If you're improvising by yourself, it can be really helpful to use some sort of play-along track. It can help you with your rhythm, it can help you with your intonation, it can help you keep on track when you eventually are playing with other people. You can either play along with the original track for the song you're using, or you can use what's called a play-along track, which is basically a track that plays the accompaniment without the melody. There are lots of resources to find play-along tracks. There are programs such as Band in the Box. There's an app called iReal Pro, and play-alongs can easily be found on YouTube as well. You can make your own by recording yourself. You can record the bass notes and the chord notes. And for those of you who want more information on what bass notes and chord notes are, please look into our program or just leave a comment on this video. Tip number 7, set up your jam space. If you have a spot where you like to practice, make sure you have your speakers set up or your headphones ready. Make sure all your music is easy to access. If you're a person who's more on the move, make sure you have a bag packed with all the things you need to work on your improvising. Consider making an audio playlist like on your phone or whatever to make sure you have a list of what you're working on in order so that all your files are in one place. This requires a little bit of preparation in the beginning. Once you're set up, you should actually save a lot of time and stress. Tip number 8, try writing out your solo first. If you feel like you're having trouble or are too scared to jump right into improvising, one thing that some of our ISP students have done is started out by writing their own solo. Eventually they get the feel for how it works and are willing to try improvising later. So writing your solo can be a nice intermediary step towards improvising. Ultimately, some students like to improvise first and then learn how to write down what they did later. Other students like to learn how to write first and then try improvising. We've noticed that both of these methods are successful. Tip number 9, don't throw away your conventional repertoire. For a developing musician, improvising is actually not a good time to work on your technique. Muscle memory really likes consistency, so playing the same piece every day, the same etude every day, the same scales every day is still highly encouraged for every musician. Improvisation is more similar to sight reading in that it's hard to tackle the technical side of your instrument while you're doing it. Maybe if you're really good at sight reading or really good at improvising, you can work on your technique. Generally speaking, for most people, these things take up too much mental power to focus on anything else. Tip number 10, it's okay to let yourself be lost every now and then. It does happen to all of us. Sometimes even great things happen when you're lost. But the goal should be to not be lost and to be following the music as it comes. Consider that when you're playing in an orchestra, it's pretty easy to keep track of the music because you're playing your section part with everyone else in your section. You're basically following each other. But when you're improvising, you're all by yourself. You know, kind of like when you're in a string quartet. There's only one person for each part. So in our program, we've noticed that students do eventually get the hang of it, and even the ones who start out getting lost all the time, they eventually figure out their own way to stay with the group. Thanks for joining us. If you're interested in learning more, please follow the links to our program below, or give us a like, please subscribe. We do clinics, camps, we have our own method book with songs designed to learn improvisation and group arranging techniques. Thanks a lot.